Hey everyone, happy to have you with us for an all-new episode of the American Mailbag alongside Andy Gresh. I'm Haley Outen. Andy, what a week it was across the American. A whole lot to talk about today, looking back at Memphis SMU College game day. But with that, we got a whole lot of questions this week. So starting off with Mike Jump, he says, in reference to Saturday, first off, what a day of football for the AAC. Andy, what do you think about his Bearcats giving up so many yards but capitalizing on Holton Ahlers' one and only mistake in that game at ECU?
When you look at that Cincinnati win, it really was a three-phase win. And yes, I know they gave up a ton of points in the first half, but you got to give the Cincinnati defense credit. They did a good job in the second half of slowing down that ECU offense. And offensively, they were able to pick it up and make some plays when they needed to. Des Ridder had a big run at the end of that game. And look, you got a timely kick. So, yep, sometimes it's one mistake on the other side, but you got to credit all three phases of the game in the second half and Cincinnati getting that win.
All right, sticking with that game from Daniel Sayans, he says, with Cincinnati barely beating ECU, how likely is it that they'll choke and lose two of their final four games? He is a UCF fan.
Wow, holy cow, he's using the choke word, and I don't see it. I think what Cincinnati has shown is great resiliency this year. They've shown they can win in different ways. And look, that game against ECU was not clean. And I thought they really showed to me, they showed championship guts on the road at ECU, down 10 at the half and having given up 31 points. For them to be able to get that win, I don't think they gag it away. And look, the new game to kind of circle on the calendar is that Memphis-Cincinnati game coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, speaking of which, from James Collins, with Memphis having the talent that they have, how do you stop their offense? And we saw it go off on Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Kenny Gainwell, I thought it was Kenneth. Apparently it's Kenny Gainwell, but, he's one of the most explosive players in the conference. But to me, the quarterback, Brady White, is playing out of his mind right now and has done a really good job of capitalizing not only on opportunities down the field, but third down throws, things like that. Memphis is on a roll offensively. I don't know how good they're going to be stopping anyone, but we know Memphis can score. And I think this day and age in college football, and as the prior question just kind of referenced, it takes one mistake on the other side. Say you're up 3 and you can score, one mistake on the other side, a 10-point lead. Those almost become insurmountable late in games.
From Todd Posey, while both awesome achievements for Memphis players this season, if you had to pick one, which are you more impressed by? Antonio Gibson's 386 all-purpose yards against SMU or Kenny Gainwell's 100-200 game against Tulane?
I don't want to sound like a Kenny Gainwell fanboy, but I'm going with what he did because, you don't just do it on one catch or one run or something like that. And that's not to take anything away from what Gibson did. He had an unbelievable day, but Kenny Gainwell, that's a lot of touches to be able to get that many yards, especially receiving and rushing. So I'm going to go with that, but man, this Memphis offense is explosive. And when you've got guys coming out of nowhere that we've hardly talked about here on the American Digital Network, it just goes to show you the kind of depth Memphis has.
From James Cox, Andy, who would you say has the most explosive offense in the American? He's siding with his Knights.
You know what? As much as I just talked glowingly about that Memphis offense, I kind of agree with him. And, look at what happened with UCF. It's like, boom, third quarter hits, and they can find a way to put up 3 touchdowns lickety-split. Dylan Gabriel's coming along at the quarterback spot. I would have to go with the Knights, but I will say, Haley, is that I think now with SMU and Memphis, and look, Navy does it a different way than everybody else, we have more explosive offense in the American than maybe we've had across the board ever in the history of the conference.
From James Moore, is the American Conference hotter than ever? Is this the peak? Can you see more
coming?
Oh,
no, there's more coming. There's no question, because I think what you're seeing is, and ECU is a perfect example, they hire Mike Houston. We know he's won everywhere he's been. They're starting to get better down there at ECU. And I think what we may end up seeing here are kind of the, middle of the road team. Hey, they can pop up and maybe have a chance to win a conference championship at some point in time. So I don't think it's just dominated by one or two blue bloods, quote unquote, relative to the American. I speak that way. Like, it's not always just going to be Memphis and UCF. We're seeing other teams like Cincinnati and SMU. Tulane's getting better. ECU's a sleeping giant. I think USF's starting to turn the corner a little bit. There's still light years to go for this football conference.
Yeah, I would say even in the last 6 years, for myself covering this league, this is probably the most parity that we've seen.
Oh, there's no question. And the fact that we're now to the point, the American has gotten such notoriety that if they have a one-loss conference champion at the end of the year, somebody really in those other group of 5 leagues has to really have a spectacular season to bump a one-loss American champion out of that New Year's Six.
All right, this one, we had to do it. From Jeff Ward, do you still hate Memphis?
I don't hate Memphis. People want me to tell them something that they want to hear. Like, you can't look at what they did defensively and sit there. And that's normally where I get on them, Haley. Like, I love their offense. I dig Mike Norvell. Memphis is a great city and a great town, and they banged it out the other night for the game that was covered by College Game Day. But look, they're just not great defensively. And the fact of the matter is, if you have one game with a couple of turnovers on offense, can you rely on that defense to not give up a bunch of touchdowns and put you behind? So I think I'm being realistic about Memphis. I just think the Memphians want me to tell them something.
Why are you yelling at me?
I mean, I don't get it because I don't know why Memphis is mad at me. That's why. I don't understand it.
Gotta have one per week. It's too much fun. All
yeah,
right.
really. And you know what? Like, part of the reason I'm getting animated is because you're the one who picks these questions. So you're kind of setting me up to go off.
I don't pick them alone, but I have it's fun to instigate a little bit.
Pick them alone? I see your
by committee.
Yeah, I see your dartboard in your office where you're putting them up there. You're just firing darts at them, and these will be the ones that we use.
Okay. All right, from Nathan Daly, he wants to know, do you think Navy can beat Notre Dame, and when are you and him going to have a donut eating contest?
Well, I'm down for the donut eating contest. I really am. And, you know, it's interesting because I don't know, Haley, just how high-end Notre Dame is. I know their loss this year was to a top 10 team, maybe even a top 5 team when you look at it. I think Navy's got a chance to go in there and disrupt them. I don't know if they can pull the upset, but I don't think they're going to make it easy on Notre Dame.
All right, Mark Londo, do you feel that Malcolm Perry's passing has made Navy a more potent threat in the American West?
Well, if you know that offense, you understand that they want to throw the ball about 15 times a game, and it works off of them really running the ball. So I don't think it is the proverbial, hey, this quarterback is great at dropping back and reading defenses and operating the way some of the teams do in the American, like, say, Shane Buechele, for example, in terms of SMU. So to me, it's all based on the run game. As long as they're really leaning on people and running the ball, Malcolm Perry's going to have the ability. They look for, I do believe, and I had an old, guy who runs that offense. It goes all the way back to Irk Russell at Georgia Southern, where if they can throw it 15 times a game and get 15 yards per catch, that's the perfect complement to the way they want to run the ball at Navy. So I don't want to take anything away from Malcolm Perry, but I do think as long as you're running the ball, those opportunities to throw are going to be there.
All right, next question from, it's the great Yunkin, Charlie Brown.
By the way, that is a fantastic
Got it back-to-back weeks.
handle. I like that.
Welcome. Who has the best name in the American? Magnifico, Buechele, Gainwell, Outen, someone else. There's literally only one right answer to this.
Well, it's got to be you, right? It's got to be Outen, right? I mean, it's got to be you.
But if it wasn't me.
Okay, if you're off the list, you sure this wasn't sent in by your mom?
Pretty sure.
It's got to be Joey Magnifico. I mean, because he sounds like an out-of-work magician. I mean, that's a great name. Or it's the whole, when you think about it, here's the way I would always gauge it, right? The old days when Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, the guy at the old Chicago Stadium, Michael Jordan, that deal. I always think about how a name would sound in that scenario, or if it was like, say, WWE and they were being announced in the ring coming down the aisle. And Joey Magnifico works just in so many ways.
You know what we have to do before the season's over? We have like a month or so left here, but we need to come up with our all-name team.
I'm down.
We'll work on it.
Oh, yeah.
Next few weeks, we'll work on it. All right, from Daniel Freer, we quite possibly could have Cincinnati at Memphis 2 weeks in a row, regular season finale, then the American Championship game. Has the conference been making preparations for this scenario?
I don't think this is very uncommon. And look, I think with the way the American has structured it, number one, I can't agree with them more on giving the winner of the regular season home field in the conference championship game. It makes your regular season mean more. It makes all these matchups mean something. I think it's a brilliant move from the conference. That said, look, I think logistically, we're all kind of like, oh, okay, it's the week of the championship game, and kind of hear where we're going to be. I think we can sort of narrow it down a little bit that it might be Cincinnati or Memphis, as the emailer, tweeter ended up sending in. And yeah, I would think that everybody here is on top of it. Look, all I get, like, I'm the wrong person to ask, because all I do is show up and do my thing, and there we go.
With this one. Yeah. I see the day-to-day here.
How does this work?
They truly do prepare for the championship at the beginning of the year to be at all 12 institutions, and then as the year goes on, they start to focus in and narrow in on some. But like, there's so many different scenarios that can still play out. So they're like crazy preparing for like a handful of places right now.
And wherever the American Conference Championship game is, that's where we will be.
And that's the most important
part. That is the most important part. I know we haven't really expounded upon that yet, but who knows? Maybe all of Memphis that hates me might be able to yell at me in a parking lot at some point.
We will 100% be setting up a meet and greet, just lined up of Memphis fans.
I'm down. I'm ready to take pictures. I want to find the gutless guy, though, who had found the picture of me and wrote "fool" on my forehead. Like, that's the Memphis fan I want to meet. Yeah. Because I know when he meets me, he'll be like, oh my God, I really love the show.
Well, that could be the week that they come out from behind their computer screens and get to meet
all
you
these
head on.
keyboard warriors.
Yeah, and truly the reality for Cincinnati and Memphis is that both of these teams at the moment control their own destiny. Should either win out, they will host the championship game and could potentially play each other in a rematch.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And that, by the way, I think that adds intrigue to the American Championship game, that it could be 2 weeks in a row.
All right, from Ethan Deutsch, was this last week's Adidas winner?
Oh, yes, very nice.
Wonderful. Do you have your bags packed yet to come to Memphis to watch the championship game? Go Tigers, go. Is that where you feel like this game is headed?
It feels like that's where it's headed. Again, it's that Miami-Cincinnati game. And look, because they're playing each other the week before, it almost doesn't matter where they're playing, because it all becomes about the next week per se. And, does Memphis feel like they need home field to be able to? We know that, hey, look, if Cincinnati ends up hosting the game, we know it's going to be banged out either in Memphis or Cincinnati. And the one thing I am excited about from a possibility standpoint is that the fan bases can get there relatively easy. I mean, it's not, going from Connecticut all the way down to Orlando and you got to get on a plane. You can manage the distance between those two cities to where the fan bases are really going to be able to enjoy it. And for me, that's what I'm most excited about, is that each fan base is, if they put in the effort, can be rewarded for what's a great season.
All right, last question from Jake Brewer. Where do you think last week's College game day atmosphere ranks among other locations that game day has visited in the past? Did you see that scene on Beale Street?
It's as good as any. And, I listen, this is not an FCS reference, so I don't want people to get mad at me. But when they went to North Dakota State, that's kind of what it felt like, right? They were down on Beale Street. Everybody was packed in there. It felt like it was, here's the main area where everybody is hanging out and partying. And it really added to a great atmosphere. And by the way, what a great move by getting Jerry the King Waller in there as the celebrity picker, which of course tickled me as a wrestling fan, but it's as good as any. They do a great job of creating atmosphere, and I thought the fans of Memphis really rewarded the program. You go all the way back to Justin Fuente, the fans rewarded the program's hard work with a great turnout and enticing ESPN to eventually go back whenever the time calls.
Yeah, we even heard Memphis head coach Mike Norvell talk about how he actually walked his team down Beale Street because he wanted them to experience that moment. And even though the focus was on the game, he wanted them to take a second to kind of just soak all that in.
And why not? You go through the day-to-day, especially as coaches, and it's 80-hour weeks, you got to soak that atmosphere in. It's once in a lifetime.
All right, closing out the show, the most important part where we announce this week's winner of a new pair of Adidas shoes.
That's right. Here, hold on. I know we moved back a little bit. There we go. There's our Adidas. Mine are still nice and clean. This is my goal. seriously, is to have these kicks looking this clean when we're doing the conference championship game in a couple of weeks. And the great Youngkin, Charlie Brown, Sean Youngkin, you win this week because anytime I can make a magician reference off of a name like Joey Magnifico, that just tickles me. So the great Youngkin ends up winning the pair of Adidas shoes.
You just kind of never know what you're going to be feeling each week
That's
when
right.
you go to select these questions.
Sure.
And sometimes it's like this technical side, and sometimes it's just the one that, in your words, tickles you.
There you go, and that one did. And I almost gave it to Jeff Ward for just pure hate. But it's fun for me to say he came in second, so he doesn't get the shoes.
Wow. If that's how you're going to make friends, rewarding people.
Well, Haley, you know me. Wherever I go, I make a lot of friends.
All right, well, we'll be reaching out to you on social media, so keep an eye out for that message. And congratulations to the great Youngkin, Charlie Brown, not only on your Adidas, but just on having probably the most fabulous Twitter name.
That is pretty good.
We've seen this season.
Where's Meek Mill this week?
I don't know.
I know
didn't
he's
hear
been
from him.
tweeting me like,
really?
oh yeah, I've been getting tweets from old.
Did he slip through the cracks this week?
I don't know about that. I think he may now think that because he's got such a relationship that he could just come to us directly with his questions instead of submitting them here.
Well, there are still a few weeks to go for this show, so still more opportunities. But of course, we appreciate all of you tuning in each and every week. Make sure to join us Wednesday night for an all-new episode of The American Huddle. We'll see you then.